Welcome to the episode 13 of Empower Her Voices, where we don't just talk empowerment, we create it. So, in this episode, we dive deep into thought provoking questions like what if the biggest barriers holding you back weren't external but deeply wired into your unconscious mind? And what if you had the power to rewire your energy, break limitations, and step into a whole new reality? So, today, with our guest, we are unlocking the secrets of quantum morphogenetic science, diving deep into energy mastery, unconscious reprogramming, and the quantum shifts that can actually transform your life. So, get ready to shift your mindset. Tap into your limitless potential and embrace the quantum power within you. So, as we explore these transformative concepts, there's no better person to guide us than someone who has dedicated their career to unlocking such powerful shifts. And today's guest is an extraordinary force in the world of transformation and human potential. With over 2 decades of experience, Dr. Carol Talbot has been at the forefront of unlocking limitless possibilities for individuals and organizations worldwide. And she's also the founder and creator of the Possibility Hub, a space dedicated to expanding awareness and rewiring the unconscious mind to break through limitations. Holding a PhD in quantum morphogenetic science, her groundbreaking research focuses on bioregenesis of DNA and source feeding, which is quite challenging traditional ideas of nourishment and energy mastery. So, Dr. Carroll is an internationally acclaimed keynote speaker and 3 times TEDx presenter known for blending science, quantum principles, and practical tools into transformational experience, and is a certified master trainer in LLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy. She has empowered thousands through her high impact mentoring, retreats, and corporate leadership programs. A master firework instructor as well, and she has guided individuals across burning coals using this powerful experience to help them reprogram their unconscious mind, break fear barriers, and step into their highest potential. She's also an Amazon International bestseller author, and her work has inspired audiences in over 30 countries. Her expertise spans quantum energy fields, leadership, mindset mastery, and vibrational alignment, making her one of the most sought after mentors in the field of personal and professional transformation. It is an absolute privilege to welcome Dr. Carol to the Empower Her Voices podcast. And welcome, Dr. Carol. We are extremely thankful to you that you're supporting us for this cause.
Thank you so much for that. I was impressed by that introduction, and what impressed me the most, Pfizer, was that you were able to get your tongue and mouth around quantum morphogenetic science and physics. Most people trip up on that one, so thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. Happy to be here. I have lost sound at the moment, so
Sorry, I put it on mute. So, talking about your extraordinary journey, your work spans from quantum morphogenetics science to transformational mentoring and energy mastery. So, what pivotal experiences led you to explore this path, and how did you break through conventional limitations to uncover these deeper human potential?
Okay, well, I'm very blessed, Pfizer, in that one of my passions, one of the things I so love is learning. I absolutely love coming across unusual information that's a little bit left of center. And this has been from an early age and probably encouraged by having parents, and particularly my mother, who in her day used to dash up to London, change her clothes and go and learn philosophy, the philosophies of Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, and things like that. She was never into traditional medicine or allopathic medicine. We always learnt more about homeopathy and Bach flower remedies. So even if I go back to my grandparents, those seeds were planted that there's something more. And I've also been very blessed to come across some very unusual teachers and mentors. So I used to be my friends used to laugh at me because I never really went on holiday. I'd be going off on another course. And I always spent a lot of money investing in myself. I never actually worked for a company that sent me on any training programs. So when you're investing in yourself, you always get a lot more than other people because it's your investment, it's your money. You want to get the most out of it. And also, when I moved into the field of learning and development and training, you're learning everything from many multi levels. You're learning as another trainer and facilitator, how the trainer and facilitator on stage is doing, the information that's coming across, how other people are interacting with that information. So, as I said, you're learning on multi levels. And that hasn't stopped for me. I still love learning. I love coming across information that's different. So that means that when I enter the arena or a space, I'm usually a little bit different from what everybody else is doing. So, for example, when I moved into the field of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, I like to call that the user manual for your mind. Living in United Arab Emirates, I think there was only one or two other people at that time, this is over 20, 25 years ago, who were delivering those kind of programs. And there was nobody delivering them with the certification board that I was at the time. So I gained a very good reputation. Also for firewalking at that time, there certainly wasn't anybody else running firewalking events. So that's always been my desire, to be a little bit of a trailblazer, to allow that light bulb to go on and people to think a little bit differently and come across information that they may have not come across before. Hence, when I came across quantum morphogenetic science and physics, and this is some years back now, I knew that I wanted to study it. And Faiza, there's a little story here, because what happened was I'd come back from the US. I'd been on a program, sound healing, I believe, and with one of my mentors. And when I got back to Dubai, which is where I'm based out of, I saw one of the centers here had a course that caught my attention. There was a sort of free evening introduction. And I thought I'd go along. And when I went to that session, my mind kind of went bing, 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 bing. You know, when you have that kind of, there's something for you to learn here, Carol, and you need to mentor with this person. Now, funnily enough, a few years earlier, my mother, when I was back in England, had shown me a manual that looked very interesting, yet very complicated. And it was from a course that she had attended probably about 30 years ago. Anyway, after this free session that I went to in Dubai, I went back the next day to speak to the person who had given the lecture. And we were talking, we were chatting. In fact, he knew my mentor at that time. He had worked with her many years ago, so there was already synergy. But he took a phone call. And when he took the phone call, he said, "Oh, Carol, I have to leave you for a moment, but take a look at this manual." When I looked at that manual, it was the same manual my mother had shown me several years before. And when I rushed home to speak to my mum, she showed me the manual again, and it had his name on. And so she had been on a program with him 30 years earlier. Can you
And
believe
then
it?
you were there again after 30 years. Oh,
So
wow.
I took that as, hey, that's divine intervention, so to speak, that I needed to study. And so the seeds were planted, and I felt that I was meant to be on this path with quantum morphogenetic science, understanding our multidimensional anatomy, understanding more about the time-space matrix that we live in, and not just the user manual for your mind, but the user manual for being a true human.
True, true. It's really impressive the way you have actually narrated the divine intervention. I like this concept that you actually felt right there that it's the divine intervention which is actually leading you to pursue for that learning, and then the way you have actually portrayed that what multi-dimension learning means to you, is something that you have actually implemented as well. Otherwise, people at times do feel that fine, they are actually, the divine intervention is there for certain thing, but they don't pursue it. So it's quite impressive that you have actually consistently pursued it. So that's something really great. So talking about rewiring realities, which is like shifting energy and perception. So you emphasize that our beliefs shape our reality at a quantum level. So how can women reprogram limiting unconscious mind patterns and shift their energy state to actually unlock success, abundance, or self mastery?
Well, one of the concepts to understand is we are more than we think we are. And so, just for a moment, consider that from the moment we're born, we're given a name, we're handed a script, and we're given a set of beliefs which keep us in boundary conditions, which keep us in a certain paradigm. We're then sent to school and taught a history that may or may not be true. We're even tested on that history. And if we get it right, then we're the star of the class. And if we get it wrong, well, we're often perceived as the dunce of the class. And that belief, that patterning, that conditioning can stay with us. Now, as for accessing higher abilities, or what I like to call the superhuman abilities that are often displayed by the superhumans, the masters, the gurus, well, those sadly become relegated to science fiction, fantasy novels, and movies. However, I believe there's a whole lot of untapped potential within us. And that at the moment, really, what we're doing with that script of reality and that script of beliefs that we're given is, it's like operating from a set menu. And let's face it, when we go to our favorite place, you tend to order the same thing. And if on that menu there's the mystery dish of the day, we usually say, well, what's the mystery dish of the day? And they said, well, if we tell you, it wouldn't be a mystery. But we tend to go what's tried and tested, keeping within those boundary conditions. It's time to start questioning what we've been told and taught. And this brings in one of the areas that you mentioned in my introductions, that I'm a master firewalk instructor. And people often ask, why? Why? Do we need more firewalkers in the world? And the answer to that question is probably no. But what we do need is more people who can face their fears with courage and challenge what we've been taught and told. So when people walk across those burning hot coals, usually around 1700 degrees Fahrenheit, something that we've been taught and told is impossible. And when they walk across those coals completely unharmed, it begs the question, what else have I been taught and told that's not true? So it opens the door to new possibilities and opens the door to questioning reality rather than being in the boundary conditions or through the filters, like the glasses that we wear, of how we perceive reality. So you start to remember who you truly are rather than what you've been scripted and conditioned to believe.
So it's always about that the realities or the perceptions that we have been told, we should actually question it and we should explore what we are, right? Because you have said at the start that we are more than what we think. And you're right,
Yeah,
we're always given certain patterns and certain perceptions and narratives, and then we are going within that. So is it like something related to that, we prefer to be in our comfort zone, and the moment we are stepping out of it, it's something that we are challenging, and then at times the people do confront those challenges, and at times they go three steps behind.
look, comfort zone, fear, habits, routines, they play a large part of it. But the biggest barrier to change,
Yeah.
the biggest barrier to change, you may be surprised, is actually our very own conscious mind. Because the way the conscious mind is hardwired is it's constantly analyzing, criticizing, and judging everything that's going on around, from what I'm saying, from what people are wearing, from what the competitors are doing. It's judgmental and it's reactive. And
Mm.
here's the other thing, Faiza, is that if it's reactive, think of your conscious mind like a computer monitor and a keyboard. You key in information, it appears on the screen, and you respond and react to it. But
Yeah.
here's the deal. If that screen and that keyboard are not linked to a hard
Mm.
drive, nothing appears on the screen. So the
Yeah.
hard drive, in effect, is like the unconscious mind. Now,
Oh.
some people call it the subconscious mind. Because language is important here. There's always clues in our language. Sub gives the impression that it's less than. So I prefer to
Okay.
use the word unconscious mind. Now, your unconscious mind is essentially a recording and playback device that forms the habit mind, that forms our routines and habits. And here's the important thing. Over 95% of the time, you are running on programs and patterns stored at the unconscious level, which means even when you think you're consciously making a decision, you're not. And the other important thing here that actually comes from 15 years of research by a neuroscientist, the now that you're experiencing right now actually registered at the unconscious level at least half a second ago. And it may not seem like much. And
Oh.
what that means is when information comes to you, you respond and react based on the programs and patterns you've got stored.
Okay.
It's like just a reaction, a response. So, unless, like a computer, you're going into the hard drive and adding new programs, if you haven't got Excel or PowerPoint or Word loaded, then you can't use them. And if you haven't got programs loaded for joy, abundance, success,
Mm.
fulfillment, then they cannot run, they can't operate.
Yeah. Oh. So it's like, you've said that 90% of programming within us is actually is there from our unconscious mind, whatever we
Over
decided to
90,
do.
over 95%. And actually, that's being generous. That's being generous. That's for people like you and me who are a little bit more aware. The majority of people like that out there are operating from only 1% of conscious awareness in terms of how they respond and react. So in some ways, it makes you feel a little bit like a programmed robot unless you
Exactly.
start becoming aware of who you truly are, the brilliance, the magnificence of who you are, which is the reason I said you are always more than you think you are.
You are.
It's your
Exactly.
thoughts that limit you.
True, true, true. So, Dr. Carey, further taking this topic to the next level in terms of the understanding that we would like to have together with the audience, that your research delves a lot into DNA bioregenesis and energetic blueprints. So, how does this knowledge empower women to break free from generational imprints that you were just talking about in terms of the unconscious mind and societal conditioning, because this is really crucial, and most primarily self-doubt to step into their highest potential, because this societal conditioning and self-doubt, these two are the biggest hurdles. So how do we cater to these by keeping in view the patterns that is there in the quantum morphogenetic science?
Okay, well, you've stressed the mass conditioning and programming. And as I said, from the moment we're born, we're sort of placed into a boundary condition. And it's a bit like having a glass of water. Until you release the glass, the water's always contained and you are always contained. So it really does take a little bit of a push and a stretch to start questioning your reality. And also remember that we continue to be conditioned and programmed through media, through television programming, listen to the language, through music, through what you read, through the news. So until you kind of like disconnect, and this is when, it's many people are doing physical detox, but we also need a physical detox, an emotional detox, as well as a spiritual detox. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And as you become aware of more of who you really are, you start to become discerning. because truth doesn't lie. It's a frequency, and truth doesn't lie. Now, going back to what you said about DNA, of course, we can go into epigenetics as well, and that, you know, if your cells are in an unhealthy environment, if you put your cells in a healthy environment, they will recover. But if you keep them in the same environment, i.e. your body, and start or continue eating all the toxic foods that we're given and all the additives in our food, then you are going to continue to get sick. But when I talked about this untapped potential, at the core of this untapped potential is your DNA. So think of your DNA like a treasure chest, which has all your potential, and you're given a key. But when you use that key, it only opens a very small fraction of that treasure chest. The rest, well, that's what science terms junk DNA. I prefer to call it intron DNA, the word intron meaning possibility or potential. The challenge right now is 90% of the stream of frequency and consciousness and awareness that should be coming into us is turned off through the mass conditioning and programming and the distortions in our DNA. Further distortions through the food and the additives and the toxins in our food and water supply. So that means that we don't remember who we are. We don't remember our true cosmic heritage. It's like playing a musical instrument and you can only play one or two notes. And as you activate your DNA and bring more of you online, you start to open up to a whole symphony of possibilities that opens the gateway. So another way of thinking about this, Faiza, is, you know, if you put a film strip in a projector, light comes in, projects onto the film strip, which projects onto the outer screen, right? Now, if there's glitches on the film strip, it's going to be glitchy on your movie that you're watching. Now, translate that film strip for your DNA. And when frequency and consciousness comes in, your DNA is a transmitter and receiver of frequency. So as consciousness comes in, projects onto the DNA, if there's distortions in your DNA, and there are, then that's projected on your reality of life, which means that in your life, you do not see things as they really are. You see things as you've been taught to see them. You see things as you've been conditioned and programmed to experience and see them. And so this ends up being physical challenges, physical disease, emotional challenges, mental challenges, as well as spiritual challenges. So one of the key things here is to start cleaning up your DNA, which is one of the reasons that my thesis was on bioregenesis of the human DNA blueprint through source feeding. And source feeding is the breatharian path, finding a way to reimagine nourishment where you can start to nourish your cells in a way that allows for the DNA to repair. As your DNA repairs, you begin to remember who you are, you become more discerning, you become more creative, and you bring more of the true human online. And that's when, as I said, you open the door to masses of possibilities and potential. So my wish is to switch on that light bulb, to start getting people to question their reality, to take off the glasses of mass conditioning and programming that they've been given, and start to see that there are so many possibilities. There are so many different timelines to explore. We are just brilliant, magnificent, but like a dimmer switch on a light bulb, we've been turned down to the faintest glow. It's now time to turn up that switch. Instead of a dimmer switch, it should be a brightness switch. Oh, I've lost sound again.
And forgot to, unmute my mic. So, it's the way you have actually break it down when it comes to this concept. It's a dire need of actually, getting back to our reality, accepting our reality, overcoming our fear. And the best bit that I just actually, kind of absorbed is that you said that DNA is a treasure chest. So it's up to us how much are we going to unlock and how much we are going to absorb out of it. So, when
The key is to repair the DNA. And again, there's still a lot of misinformation about DNA. It is multidimensional. And
okay.
also, you do hear a lot of people saying, oh, 12-strand DNA activation. If you got that much activated, you wouldn't be in physical form. However, we do need to bring a little bit more online to start to evolve the way we were originally designed to do. So apologies, I just wanted to add that in, and I know you had a question there for me, so
No,
back
no,
to
no.
you.
In fact, okay, the way you have said it, there was this question in my mind. So it's like this bit of actually exploring your own self or going deep into your DNA is, I guess, a continuous process. What I have just got from the recent bit that you have said, because it's so we have said that consider it as a prayer chest. So this is something we should keep on actually exploring till the time we have met with our own reality one time, or is it just we should keep on going with it? Is it like keep on revolving over the period of time, or is it just fixed in terms of the perceptions or the narratives which are there with us since childhood? So I guess it's continuously evolving.
We are or should be continually evolving. If you think about it, Pfizer, everything on this planet is either growing or dying. Which side of
Exactly.
the equation do you want to be on? And I know which side of the equation I want to be on. And
True.
so I think we see this when we go back to sort of a couple of generations ago when our parents used to work and then they used to, or grandparents used to work and then they used to retire. And then it's almost
Mm,
as if they had nothing to live for. So they would just sort of pass over. And
true.
also, if I go back to my younger years, you had a goal and you
Mm,
achieved it, and everything was worked towards that goal, and then you'd achieve it, and then there's the big what. And so,
yeah.
I always used to sort of get to a different milestone and think, well, now I know it all. Now I've arrived. And you never do, because there's always more.
There's
And,
always
you know, and that's the beauty, isn't it, of always evolving and new message. And what you believed before may not be what you believe now. And there's a time, space, and place for everything. But one other thing here that I would say from a larger, probably more multidimensional and quantum perspective is, the concept of karma, in that, you know, some people would say, well, why evolve? We die, and then if you believe in reincarnation, and a good percentage of the world population are in a religion that does believe in reincarnation in some form or other, but when you come back, if you choose to come back, if there is a choice, then down comes the veil of forgetting again, and you have to start all over again. And
always.
personally, I don't see that as evolution, because that's to me just being a hamster on a hamster wheel. And this
Mm,
is the reason that it's so important to begin to remember who you truly are beyond the
mm,
physical form from a
mm.
much broader perspective. And our true path of evolution wasn't to be on a hamster wheel, to keep coming back again and again and again with the veil of forgetting.
Yeah, it's more about like how deeply connected we are with our own self. So, Dr. Carol, you have guided people through extreme transformation experiences, like including firewalking you just talked about. So, what role does facing fear play in personal evolution, as we were just talking about evolution? And how can particularly women or young girls harness this mindset to break barriers in their life or leadership or entrepreneurship, or even when it comes to personal empowerment?
So, fear doesn't necessarily mean do not do it. It's
Mm,
about pushing your edges. So, again, this goes back to the discernment of, you know, trusting yourself and where
mm,
your own edge is. There's, yes, fire walking is sort of one way to overcome your fear. And also, this is also the beauty of having a mentor, finding somebody else who's done what you want to be able to do. In NLP, we call this modeling excellence. So if you want to be brilliant at something, you find somebody else who's doing it. And it's not just a
Hmm.
study of what they do, it's also understanding how they do what they do, what beliefs they have, what values they have, what's their thinking process to create that result. So it's finding your edge and moving a little bit beyond that edge each time. And that's one of the reasons that I've taught firewalking for over 20 years. Some people say, oh, Carol, it's a very motivational event. But more
Hmm.
importantly, to me, it gets people questioning those boundary conditions so that they can be more than they thought they could be. And to
Hmm.
question, what if that's not true? What if I could heal myself? So we go to healing. Um, I've got quite a lot of cats at the moment and a little kitten that I rescued.
Yeah.
And she has very sharp claws. And I know
Okay.
if I get a scratch on my arm, I don't think twice about it, Pfizer, because I know that within days, my body has the intelligence to know what to
Hmm.
do to heal that.
Hmm.
So this is understanding the innate intelligence that is within you, and also surrounding yourself by supportive people who allow you to shine, to be at your best. That if you are going to do something that's a little bit different,
Hmm.
and as I said, I'm a person who's loved pushing boundaries, then to make sure that you're also supported. I feel that's so important, not just to trust yourself. When in these events, I never force anybody to walk across those coals, ever. And I
Hmm.
often think for the few people who've been to the events and have chosen not to, I often think it's braver to say, no, it's not for me this time. But
Yeah.
what I have observed over the years is when I run these events, there's a very in your face waiver that says, this is dangerous, you may be harmed,
Hmm.
it's your responsibility. And often people come to me and say, Carol, I'm not signing that. And I always say, sign it and you might change your mind. Or they come up to me and say, I'm just going to watch. And I say, that's absolutely fine. And still take off your shoes.
Hmm.
And I can honestly share with you that the majority of groups I've worked with, those people may not be the first ones to walk across those burning hot coals. And
Hmm.
as they watch other people do it, it allows them to see what's possible. So if we go to the masters, the superhumans, and the gurus who are able to walk on water, to teleport, to be in two places thousands of miles apart within moments, to manifest huge banquets out of nothing, to nourish themselves with prana without physical solid food. If we look at them as role models, they've
Hmm.
opened the door. It's now our time to remember who we are.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is like something very important that when you talked about mentors, that we should actually surround ourselves with people who are supportive and who actually believes in the nourishment of, because you have used this term, I guess 5 to 10 minutes ago, emotional nourishment. So this is something really important for the soul as well. And I'm sure, being the expert, you are the best one to guide us the way you are doing right now. And mentors do play a really important role, and we should always reach out to people who are the expert in their fields, because they can guide us well and they can make us push the boundaries and come out of those comfort traps. So when it comes to energetic nourishment and future of well-being, your exploration of source feeding challenges everything we know about energy and sustenance. So how can, we integrate higher energetic awareness into our daily lives to enhance vitality, particularly resilience and mental clarity?
I think the question to ask is what are you really hungry for? Many
Yeah.
people are hungry for love, success, or they eat when they're depressed. Again, there's huge conditioning and programming around food, um, in terms of it's given as a reward, it's withheld but punishment. There's certain celebrations where there's feasts and banquets. So there's a lot of conditioning around food. And the challenge is there's so many additives and toxins in our food.
Hmm.
Also, everything is energy.
Yeah.
So the food that we eat also carries an energy signature from where it was grown, how it was grown, who handled it, and that blends with our cells and either hurts us or harms us. So, are there
Hmm.
other ways to start nourishing ourselves which allow the cells to get the energy that they require? Because our cells do not directly absorb energy from the food that we eat. It has to go through a very complicated process to make ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the fuel of the cells. So, yes, there are other ways to nourish the cells of the body. Being out in sunlight. And again, that's the most obvious one. Most people know that when you're in sunlight, when you're out in the sun, that your body is able to convert that into vitamin D and K, which is good for bone density. My
Yes.
question is, if your body has the ability to make vitamin D and K from sunlight, what other minerals and vitamins can it create to nourish you? Here's the other thing
Hmm.
to consider, in terms of nourishment. Have you ever been with a group of friends and you've just found the conversation so nourishing in terms of it's exciting, it makes you think differently, or maybe you've read a book and as you read that book, you can't wait for the next page. Or you've listened to a song and it just, you think, I need to listen to that song again and again and again because every time you hear that song, you need to move. So, those are the areas that I want people to think about in terms of nourishing themselves. When you're out in nature and you breathe in pure fresh air, if you've come from the city, it's like, it's nourishing. If you have your yoga practice or pranayama, it's
Hmm.
nourishing. So there are thousands of ways to nourish yourself in ways other than always reaching for physical, solid food. And again, this is an area that I have explored. I'm 11 months into my transition into source feeding, which is also called pranic living, Inedia, and the breatharian path. And I'm not alone. There are over 200,000 breatharians in the world nourishing themselves in other ways, because this also allows your cells to get pure energy rather than
Right.
having to deal with all the toxins in our food and water. So, in terms of nourishment, what brings you alive? What makes you laugh? What makes you, is it your friends? Is it
Hmm.
being on the beach? Is it with music? Is it being alone? Is it within meditation? I
Hmm.
actually have a free ebook that you might like to share. I'll send you a QR code that
Sure.
you may want to share on your social media. It's called Reimagining Nourishment, the Energetics of Nourishment. It's just a short book, but it'll give people some clues on other ways to start nourishing themselves and feeling complete and full and satisfied, other than relying on what's on your plate.
Yeah, true. And nourishment, you are so right that at times there are people, for example, if it comes to me, I would love to read something, it will make me happy. And the other person feels like if he or she'll go out with friends, they'll be more happy. At times, people would like to sit alone just for having the me time to have their inner nourishment. So, yes, it is different for everyone depending upon their experiences. So you've just said that, energy is everything, right? And even if there are like high performing women out there and they are actually understanding the core concept of nourishment and they're doing it, but at times they do struggle with burnout and stress. And even if we talk about ourselves, the working woman as well as the women who are at home looking after the family, they do counter these things. So how can understanding like quantum energy fields and vibrational alignment can help us tap into a state of ease, flow, and when it comes to corporate world, the peak performance without exhaustion? Is there any like the way out to overcome this thing, or to actually bear it with kind of resilience? How to like go with this thing? Because this is something that most of the women have asked, that okay, we are dealing with this, so how can quantum energy fields can help us or navigate us through?
Okay, well, everything is energy, from the chair we're sitting on to, the room to the computer. It's all energy oscillating and vibrating at specific frequencies. But your
Mm,
thoughts, your emotions, your language are also energy, which means it's going out into the world. And
mm,
all organisms read energy. It's just as human beings, we got a little bit lazy. Yet we all know when we walk into a room, some people will say, oh, it's got a lovely atmosphere here. Or you meet someone, you say, oh, get a bad vibe from that person. So we do
mm,
read energy. Once you recognize that, you can also recognize your own energy. What are you projecting out into the world? Are you projecting an energy field that people want to be with you, or it's like, stay away? So let me give you two very quick ways to change your energy and to change your state that doesn't have to take a long time. People need to always say, I haven't got time to sit and meditate. I haven't got time to do a
mm.
technique. But our energy and our way of feeling and being comes from our thoughts. And what you think impacts how you feel and impacts how you behave. So
Mm,
if you're focused on a bad experience you had in the day or something went wrong and you feel bad about it, the only way that a negative emotion can keep continuing and that state can continue, because it shouldn't last more than 60 seconds at the max, is if you keep having the same image. And when we've had an argument or something's gone wrong, we play it again and again and again, like a record. So the
yeah.
quickest way to change your state, to change your energy, is to change the picture, the sounds and feelings in your head. So when we talk about the voice in our head, most of us have a voice inside our head that beats us up when we've done something bad, maybe your mother's voice, maybe your own voice. But do you
True.
know what, Faiza? You can change that voice. So if it needs to be your favorite Bollywood star or Hollywood star, imagine whether it's, Brad Pitt, Richard Gere, or anything like that, saying, you're a naughty girl. It just changes how you feel when you change the voice, or Mickey Mouse, or change the
Mm,
image. So it's a bit like, most people think about the food that they do find delicious would be, I call these strawberry moments. So if you have a strawberry dipped in chocolate, most people will go, oh, that's lovely. So for me, it's
mm,
about creating your own strawberry moments. Times in your life when you felt absolutely brilliant, when you felt on top of the world, confident, powerful, stepping into who you
mm.
really are. And literally taking a few moments to remember those strawberry moments, even have a list of the best times in your life. And so when you find that button is on repeat or that voice is beating you up, you
Yeah.
literally, and listen to our language, what do we say? Push that thought aside. Literally, push that thought aside, push it away, and bring in a better new image and thought, a strawberry moment, a time in your life when you felt absolutely brilliant. The second
Right.
way, so change the thoughts in your head. When you change the thoughts, it changes how you feel, changes the results that you get. But the second way is, as I said, most of us, in terms of energy, particularly in this day and age, we're very static. We're sitting or hunched over a desk all day or looking at a computer screen. Your physiology impacts how you feel. And this is so simple, Faiza. You know, how do you know when somebody's depressed? You hear it in their voice and you see
Understood.
it in their physiology. G.
True.
Now, if I've got an important conversation coming up, I'm either going to sit up straight or I'm going to stand up, because your voice then, instead of coming from your head, you're bringing all of it to the table. So, one
Hmm.
of the quickest ways to change how you feel is literally to stand up, to move your arms up and down a few times, or shake yourself out. Qigong, there's something called the bounce and shake. And when I'm on stage, I literally get people to shake their whole body out for about a minute and then stop. And when you
Okay.
stop, you'll feel the energy all around you. And
Oh.
that changes your state. So as soon as you change your physiology, you change how you feel. So another quick tip here is, if anybody listening has children, or
Yeah.
when you're upset, you tend to look down because feelings are down. If you look
Hmm.
up, from an NLP perspective, we call this the visual area. Feelings are not up there. So if you've got
Hmm.
somebody who's depressed, say, "Oh, look at the sky, look at the bird up there." It
Yeah.
immediately changes their state. So, two ways: change the thoughts inside your head and that
Hmm.
sound of that voice, and change your physiology. It will instantly get you out of that feeling of stress or negative thinking and give you a fresh perspective. It's like putting on a different pair of glasses.
True, different pair of glasses, and it's the quickest way. Like it's really, really easy for anyone that we have to change the thought going on in our mind, and we can either stand, we can just roam around, and then these two things together are going to change our energy or the way we are thinking or feeling. So this is something that we all can do if we are sitting
They're
at
just a
home.
quick fix.
Quick phase, exactly. And then,
Sorry,
so it's really good that way you've said that, we all have those strawberry moments in our life and we can just list it down and then we can go through it. And then ultimately that energy vibe will be there in our body and we are going to feel it. And then energy will ooze out from it, like the positive energy and the enthusiasm that we are going to have.
absolutely. Who doesn't have a song that when they hear that song, it's like, oh, I've got to move, I've got to dance. And it
True.
instantly changes your state. Now, as I said, these are just quick fixes. Are there other ways to literally pull the plug and put the
Yeah.
plug into a different socket so you're rewiring the trans neurotransmitters?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's when I work at a little another level to help people rewire. If there's something that triggers them, if they look at something or somebody says something, it triggers them. We cannot change other people. However, we can change our response. And it's just
Yeah.
rewiring the way that you're wired and fired. So just changing it.
Hmm. True, true. What an incredible conversation today with Dr. Carol Talbot and her insights into rewiring the unconscious mind, breaking through limitations, and stepping into our full potential have truly been enlightening. So, from shifting energy and perception to mastering the flow state, this discussion has actually given us powerful tools to rethink and the way that doctor said that rewire you have to change the perceptions, you have to push yourself, and this is how we approach personal and professional growth. So Dr. Carol, thank you for sharing your wisdom, experiences, and transformative knowledge with us today. Your passion for actually unlocking human potential is truly, truly inspiring, and we deeply appreciate the impact you have made on this platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And to our amazing audience, thank you for tuning in. If today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe the Empower Her Voices series. And let's keep these conversations going and continue empowering women globally. Until next time, stay empowered, stay limitless, and remember, you have the power to shape your reality.